Hey folks, welcome to Market Technical Analysis by InTheMoneyStocks.com, your leader in pure technical analysis, avoiding all that Wall Street hype. Today, Monday, May 19th, 2008. Well, we're going to touch on a few odds and ends today, and it's very interesting what we're seeing out there because it continues to follow the track that we think the market is setting up for a ginormous correction. Not a ginormous one, I guess maybe that's a little too strong a term, but a sizable pullback here. Again, we're not sure about the size of it, but what we've seen of late is a move down. We saw that initial move down off of our call, and now we've seen a double top with a slightly higher high. And today we saw a reversal intraday that was unbelievable. Again, it had a lot of volume in it. It had a lot of indicators pointing to some major players selling again, which is what we've seen lately. And it's just one more thing in addition to the overall indicators that we've been noticing that have been telling us this market needs a pullback. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily it's on the brink of happening, although we do anticipate it happening very, very shortly. If not, it has already started with that first M pattern or double top formation here. But the key here is that there's just too many divergences all across the board. We talked on Friday in the video about Wall Street and Main Street not being on the same page. We had that consumer sentiment indicator that came out, and it was the worst since 1980. Yet at the same time, the market's been rallying up here of late off the lows from the Bear Stearns report. And again, we called that move up, but the market is way too toppy at this stage and has to pull back. So we're going to continue to watch for this pullback over the next couple weeks to a month, and we'll see where it takes us. But there's been a lot of other indicators and a lot of sectors that haven't been moving, and the oil trade's been in the news. And by the way, folks, the oil trade of all trades out there was the quieter one today. Oil was basically flat on the day. It was up about $1 overall, but you had oil this morning up about $1.50, then it sold off to go negative, and then by the end of the day it crept higher as there was a little geopolitical news, nothing major, but a little geopolitical events going on that pushed it up a little bit. But any way you cut it, the market is very, very toppy in oil here, and we do expect a pretty strong pullback, possibly all the way to $100 within about a month to 6 weeks. It could easily reach that $100 once the selling starts. So keep an eye on that. And again, this is just going contrarian to what the market expects. Everyone out there hears about oil and how much it's going up. Well, at that point, you know the big boys are unloading. And the same thing went for the market today, as we saw the intraday sell start out with huge volume on the downside. Biggest volume candles of the day were the sell side candles. So let's start in with this market here again. And I just want to touch briefly on what the market did today. I mentioned it was a flat market for the most part, even though we had a pretty nice rally early on, but that got wiped out. So you had the Dow up about 41 points today, or 0.32%. The Nasdaq was negative on the day, down about 13 points, or 0.5%, and the S&P was up 1.28, which is nothing, flat on the day. All right, and the key here, guys, is you're looking at the Intra Day E-Mini chart, and this chart will show you the ginormous reversal that we experienced intraday, and a beautiful bear flag pattern that came to fruition on a nice sell-off again when we reached a double bottom on the intraday here and then got a bounce into the close on lighter volume. So here we are, guys, coming along our merry way here early in the morning, pre-market, and the market's basically flat here. Market opens, you get a little bit of a sell side here, and initially, right away, you get a positive buy candle, and it wipes out the sell candle. And when you see that happen, that's a bullish sign for an intraday period or on the daily, depending on what time frame you're looking at. So right away, this is a buy signal because it's an engulfing candle that takes out that full red candle, and they're big. You know, little engulfing little candles like this, not a big deal. You know, these over here. You see a reversal engulfing candle there. It's not a big deal. It's when you have the big one reverse that you know there's some buying pressure behind it. And sure enough, up we went, had a little bit of a pause, another push. And at this point, you're getting toppy. And you know you're getting toppy because you're starting to get topping tails. Little topping tail there, a little tail here again, a little tail as they push it up again. Market's kind of going sideways. Then they get that final push here, getting all the little longs to go long here, especially when we were noting the put-call ratio, which, by the way, has not been over 1 in what seems to be a couple weeks. And again, the put-call ratio measures how many puts are out there to how many calls. And you play it as a contrarian indicator by noting if there's a lot more calls, then you obviously go opposite the market, and that's generally the way it'll happen. So we've seen a definite lowering of that put-call ratio, which tells us there's more and more calls coming into this market, which is another good indicator to tell us that when too many people go long or feel the market's going up, that's when it surprises to the downside. So it's been slowly creeping into our area where it's telling us that this is getting way, way too toppy in this sense. So again, you see the market trading sideways, you get that last little push, and then the sell comes in. And I just want to note this again. You have a sharp look at this cliff it fell off. I mean, this is unbelievable. The size of this drop comparatively is a quick and deadly drop for anyone caught in on that. And sure enough, the market sells off. And look at the volume again. Look at this volume, especially this candle right here. And I'll show you this one right over here, which is the later off the bear flag pattern. Which, by the way, this is a bear flag, what we call in spirit of bear flag, which is a pretty close to a bear flag pattern. It's a sell signal, and sure enough, you get that drop. And note the candles, the volume. Biggest volume candles of the day were the sell side candles. So here's one, and again, it blows out any other thing close to it. And here's another one. So the two biggest, again, of the day were the sell side candles. And then you got a little bit of buying just into the close, and the volume, notice the volume lightened up immediately, and they were able to lift this market into the close. Otherwise, all indexes would have closed down, except for this bounce. When we were down here, all indexes were red. All right, and the Nasdaq was down actually 20 points, and the Nasdaq had been up close to 25 points earlier in the day. When the markets were up here, the Nasdaq was trading up about 25 points. So the reversal from being up 25 to down 20 at the lows here was a sizable reversal. All right, and that is key to watch because we'll continue to note this and see if this continues to happen. But when the selling comes in, it's obviously bigger players selling and people are running out of the trades. All right. So let's take a look at the daily here, and then I would like, if we have a little time, to get into a few stocks that have been moving lately, that have been just phenomenal movers, and we'll take a look at it. So here we have the daily chart on the SPY. Beautiful little tail up here, close to a topping tail, but it's a little too early to note that as being a true topping tail because of where it closed today. It closed right on the 200, which is hardcore resistance right here, with a nice tail on the top. But when you look at the close here, it's not. It needs to be in the lower 25%, and it's borderline there. So maybe it turns out to be, if we see a continued sell here, then that'll be. Then we'll say, all right, well, I guess it was close enough in spirit of, which is what we call something that's basically close enough, and the market has taken that as a sell signal, or it turns out to be a sell signal. So we'll continue to watch this here to see if we pull back. Again, they're always going to pierce that moving average. They always have to fake out the longs, and that's what they did here, by the way. All right, even if they were to trade above it for a day or two here, again, it's a very possibility that they're faking people out, saying, okay, it's established itself over the 200 moving average. This is probably a long. As soon as the little guys say that and jump on board, then it comes crashing down. So keep in mind of that. Be very cautious here, guys, because from a move from here to here is just a very, very sizable move, as you can see. And it also you want to watch this little bit of an M top, double top pattern right here. All right, let me see if I can erase that for you guys. So you have a little bit of a double top with a higher high, which is what you want to see. All right, that's a better signal to see that double top higher high. Again, we need to see this come down and break the 20 moving average. That's my key right there. Then you'll have support right in this area, and once that breaks, then it can really complete the M and form the A pattern, and possibly see if we can have an MA pattern here. But again, overall, it was very, very light volume in the morning. Light volume this morning was dead, and that's what it rallied on. And then volume actually, overall the day was relatively light in volume, but the majority of the volume of the day came in the afternoon on the sell-off, as you guys saw on the intraday. And we can even look at that on the SPY, and you can see right here the candles off the sell-off there. So again, also on the intraday, note the gap fill areas right here. You got a nice little bounce off that area. Here it came down, touched it, and bounced up. Then you got a little breakthrough, but it bounced back above that gap fill area. So interesting thing anyways, or the closing price area anyways. So nonetheless, very interesting market today. Nasdaq was the weaker one out there. The Dow kind of, you got to throw out the Dow because it's a skewed index. It's made up of only a few stocks. But the Nasdaq, look at the sell on this Nasdaq, and look at the beautiful bear flag pattern. I mean, this is a pretty impressive. Note where it came to, by the way, right to the 200 on the Nasdaq intraday 10-minute, bouncing up and then crushing right through it, only to get a little bounce at the end of the day like that. So we'll see if this sets up for continued sell-offs. It's really up in the air. You got the PPI index tomorrow, which is Producer Price Index, coming at 8:30. That will probably shape the day. So far, the data hasn't really shown us anything, and that's why we talk about Main Street versus Wall Street, and why I'm so skeptical often about these government numbers and these numbers that are put out based on people's putting numbers together, because you just never know for sure. And when Wall Street and Main Street are so on opposite sides here, you just have to scratch your head a little and say, all right, what do we believe? Do we believe the guys that are actually out there struggling, trying to provide for their families? Do we believe these numbers that say nothing's wrong, everything's perfect, and off to the races? So eventually those two catch up to each other. Maybe they meet somewhere in the middle. I don't know, but at some point you got to have a little pullback in this market. Now, the other thing I want to point out, guys, is the XLF, which is the financials, and this is also another tipping point for us. So far, the market's had a nice move up, like this, right? Well, what's the XLF doing? An in spirit of bear flag pattern possible here. All right. So while the market, and again, we'll show the SPY quickly here. While the market has moved like this, who's not participating? The XLFs. So the financial companies like Goldman Sachs, which was down today again, are not participating in this rally. Neither is the XHB, which is the housing, which leads me to believe that this something is going to happen here to trigger another sell-off possible. All right, and it may be financially related. So keep a watch on these financials. Something's a little skewy out there, a little crazy going on, and we got to continue to watch these indicators and continue to note that. All right, guys. Other than that, that's about all for today. Watch oil, see if it starts to come in, see if that gives the market a bid. Also, keep an eye on everything else we've talked about. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.